If you're someone who likes to stay in control, who prefers things to be clear, organised and handled, and feels slightly uncomfortable when they're not, this will probably feel familiar. Because for many capable people, the pressure they experience isn't coming from what's happening, it's coming from the need to stay in control of what's happening, to keep things on track, to make sure nothing goes wrong, to stay ahead of everything that might cause problems. And on the surface, that looks like a strength. It looks like responsibility. And it looks like competence. But over time, it can begin to feel like something you can't step out of. And in this video, we're going to explore why control feels necessary, why it becomes something the system relies on, and what begins to change when control is no longer required in the same way. Because the shift here isn't about losing control. It's about understanding what's driving it. In the previous video, we touched on something important, the habit of trying to stay one step ahead, trying to anticipate what might happen before it happens. And for many people, that pattern feels completely natural because it works. It helps you prepare, it helps you perform, and it helps you avoid mistakes. But underneath that habit, there's something even more fundamental, something quieter, less obvious. The need to stay in control. So the key idea here is this. The system isn't just trying to stay ahead, it's trying to stay in control. And control feels like safety. Most people don't think of control this way. They see it as something positive, something useful, something that helps them function well. And in many ways, that's true. Control allows you to organise your thoughts, plan your actions, navigate complexity. But the part that often goes unnoticed is what happens when control becomes something the system feels it needs all of the time. Because when control becomes constant, effort becomes constant too. And that's where pressure begins to build. The nervous system is always trying to reduce risk. Not just physical risk, but psychological risk. Uncertainty, unpredictability, the possibility of something going wrong. And one of the most effective ways it learns to do that is through control. If I can think this through, I can prevent mistakes. If I can plan ahead, I can avoid problems. If I can stay on top of everything, nothing will catch me off guard. And if that approach has worked for you, if it has helped you succeed, then the system begins to rely on it more and more. Until eventually, control stops being something you use intentionally and becomes something you feel you need to maintain. So the important distinction here is this. Control isn't the problem. It's the constant need to maintain control that creates the pressure. This shows up in ways that feel completely normal. You might find yourself thinking through things repeatedly, not because you need to, but because it feels safer to be certain. You might mentally organise conversations before they happen, trying to make sure everything goes smoothly. You might replay interactions afterwards, checking whether anything could have been handled better. You might feel uncomfortable leaving things unresolved, even temporarily. Not because something is wrong, but because it doesn't feel fully under control. And over time, this becomes your baseline. Always managing, always monitoring, always keeping things in order. From the outside, this looks like high-functioning behaviour. From the inside, it can feel like something that never switches off. Using control intentionally looks like choosing when to plan, choosing when to think something through, and choosing when to act. Needing control looks different. It looks like not being able to step back, not being able to leave things open, not being able to let something unfold without managing it. That difference is subtle, but it is important. And this is where the shift begins, not by removing control, but by reducing the need to maintain it constantly. Okay, so let's explore this directly. Think of something in your life right now that you've been trying to keep under control. Something you've been managing, thinking about, keeping track of. Now notice what happens when you bring that to mind. Is there a sense of holding it in place? Trying to keep it steady? Trying to make sure it doesn't move in an unexpected direction? Notice the effort involved in that, the subtle tension, the sense of needing to stay on top of it. Now, just for a moment, see if you can soften that effort slightly. Not letting it go completely, just reducing the intensity. Nothing needs to be controlled right now. Nothing needs to be managed in this moment. Just notice what happens when that pressure reduces slightly. What most people begin to notice here is that the system doesn't collapse when the control softens. Things don't fall apart. Nothing goes wrong. What actually happens is that the internal pressure begins to reduce, because the system is no longer holding everything in place. And over time, as that becomes more familiar, control stops feeling like something you need to maintain constantly. It becomes something you can use when it's actually needed. Control isn't the enemy. It's something that has likely helped you many times. But when it becomes something you feel you can't step out of, it starts to create the very pressure it was trying to prevent. And the shift here isn't about losing control. It's about no longer needing to hold it all the time. Because when that happens, the system begins to relax naturally. Now, if you've recognized yourself in this pattern, it's worth continuing through the series, because each video builds on the last. In the next video, we'll explore something closely related: the difference between being prepared and being tense, and why those two things often get confused.